Hello and welcome to the Magic Mechanic Show right here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. This is a chance for you to call in right now to get any of your automotive questions answered live on the air for the low, low price of free. Larry Perry is the Magic Mechanic. He's sitting here waiting to answer your questions. Call now 844-580-9326. That's 844-580-9326. WDBO. You're more than welcome to download our free WDBO app and send Larry an open mic that way. Just head over to the App Store or the Play Store on your Android or iPhone, respectively, and hit the WDBO app and download it. And right in that app, there is a free way to send your voice over to Larry via the WDBO open mic. If you have a question going on for your car or van, now is your time to call 844-580-9326. How you doing today, Larry?
Hey, we're doing fantastic. Finished up about a 10-mile mountain bike ride to make sure the ticker's all in good shape, and it took me a quick shower, and now we're here to do the radio show. So, hi, folks. It's 3 o'clock, and I'm Larry Perry, and you're tuned in to the Magic Mechanic Radio Show. So, you new listeners, know this is an interactive automotive and mechanical advice program where we help you with your car problems and just about anything mechanical. And it's been our pleasure to do so, well, for over 31 years. Me personally, I'm an automotive shop owner, and I've been a master auto technician since 1982. And to make the program work, well, we need your phone calls. Our lines are open, and they're wide open right now at 844-580-9326. And remember, all your calls and your car questions get indexed and they get placed on our new Magic Mechanic YouTube channel. So other folks searching for answers like yours will be able to get the same needed information. Think about that. Folks will be able to play your car questions back and hear these comments years from now. So we'll live in infamy. Dash warning lights, poor fuel economy. Maybe you got a vehicle that's consuming a lot of oil, AC not working correctly. Maybe you hit your brakes and it pulls to one side or the other. Or maybe you feel a vibration when you hit your brakes. And, of course, maybe when you're driving down the road, maybe you're hearing noises or something doesn't sound just right. Maybe you got warranty questions or recall questions, especially a lot of these vehicles like the Hyundais and Kias, you know, they're plagued with all these engine issues and the warranty issues that go along with it. Maybe you've been in a rental car for 6 months and you still haven't got your vehicle back. These are all great topics. We'd love to hear from you. Antique, classic car issues. Maybe you got a project in the garage and you're doing a restoration on an older car. Maybe you got some questions about some parts or, just want to tell us about it. You're more than welcome to. I love to hear folks that's got projects going on in their garage. Some of them projects in the garage take years to complete. But, they're all interesting stories that goes behind every one of them. We'd love to hear them. We work on everything and we take questions on anything from any of your gas vehicles, hybrids, electric vehicles. We do a lot of diesels, so if you got an issue with a diesel truck or anything like that, you can always give us a holler here. Also, remember, I have a complete database of all the recalls and technical service bulletins from 1980 to 2023 or current date. All you need to do is give us a call. It's 844-580-9326. And I always kid around. I said, let's try to make it stupid simple. So if you can remember the 844 part and the station that you're listening to, which is 580 WDBO, and that'll get you in contact with our producer, Josh. And all you'll do is give him the year, make, and model of your vehicle and a brief description of your problem, and you'll be placed on a brief hold, and then we'll get to your call in the order that it was received. And also remember, for immediate help, you can call the shop number and speak to General Manager J.D. Now, I don't know whether he's standing by the phones or whether he's fishing. But if for some reason or other you don't get an answer, or if it's busy, you can leave a message and we'll get back in touch with you. And to call the shop number, that's 407-629-2661. And folks, you can also ask your car question by emailing me, Larry@magicmechanic.com. I can't guarantee we get to all of the emails, but we'll do our best. If we can fit them in, we will. And if not, we'll try to get them answered by around the first of the week. So with that being said, let's go ahead. And I guess I will start with some emails. I've got several of them here. I got a pretty big collection of them, as a matter of fact. But if you'd like to get in and get your car question answered, it's 844-580-9326 or 844-580-WDBO. So let's go ahead, and we're going to start one off here real quick before we have to break for the three big things. I got one here from Linda in Lake Mary, and hers says that she's got a 2011 Mercury Marquis with about 42,000 miles on it, which, you know, those are extremely good cars, and that one, being a 2011, has got very low miles on it. She says she always takes it to the dealer for service, and now they're telling her that she might want to consider getting a newer car because Mercury isn't in business any longer, and that a lot of the parts have been discontinued for the vehicle. Well, you know, there is a little bit of truth to that. The truth of the matter is the manufacturer's really not making parts for the vehicle anymore. You know, and going back to a dealership, naturally they're going to say something along those lines where, you know, folks, if you've got an older car, you know, the manufacturer may stop making parts for it, you know, after it's 10 years old or whatever. But the aftermarket, it literally breathes new life into the older car situation. You know, we have got so many avenues to obtain parts from. You know, some of that stuff's going to be in salvage yards for, you know, many, many, many years to come. So there's always that aspect. And like I said, there's aftermarket companies that make just about everything for anything. So, you know, as far as somebody trying to scare you into getting rid of a, you know, really nice old cream puff car like a 2011 Mercury Marquis, I don't think I'd let that happen. I'd probably rather have that vehicle than a lot of the brand new stuff that's on the lot. As a matter of fact, that 2011 Mercury Marquis probably just about outlasts anything on a new car lot. I don't mean that all the way across the board, but many vehicles, that 2011 Mercury Marquis will outlast, outdrive, and probably be a better car dependability-wise than many of the vehicles that are actually out on the lots nowadays. So if you all would like to talk more about some of these older vehicles that you're trying to hang on to, definitely go ahead and get in line and give us a call. 844-580-WDBO, and we're going to go ahead and break for the three big things, and you guys go ahead and give us a ring and get your calls lined up. Looks like it's going to be a slow phone call day. I know there's a lot of football on this afternoon, so if you folks that aren't tied up with the football, go ahead and give us a ring. Be a first-time caller. I'd love to talk to you.
And just like we asked, we got some calls coming in. Larry, what do you say? You want to take some of these calls?
Yeah, let's go to Dave in Deltona. This ought to be interesting.
Dave calling from Daytona. Go ahead, Dave.
Hey, thank you for taking my call. I've got a Lumar tint in the back window, and the car's about 8 years old, and I think it's on the defrost thing that I only use a couple times, but it's bubbling. Have they developed any kind of new way to get the tint off and keep the frost intact, or do they just scrape it off and the wires mess up the glass? What's the deal on that, or should I just leave it?
No, you don't want to leave it, because if the tent is starting to fail, you're going to be in a situation where it's going to start obstructing your view. You know, and I wouldn't want you to deal with that. I will tell you, the tent is usually, if you get it loosened up at one corner, Now, I'm not going to tell you this is going to be easy by no means, but if you get it loosened up at one corner and you start pulling it, that tint will usually come off. If it's a Lumar, something that's a good product, it's probably going to come off pretty much in one piece. You may wind up having a couple sections, but what it does is the tint part will come off, but it'll leave all that glue in behind it. And if you've got a defroster on the window, the best way to go about doing this, have you ever seen plastic razor blades?
Yes.
You need to stock up on those and make sure you got plenties of them. Now, I'll tell you what has worked for me. And now I'm just telling you, this is not an easy task, especially on a rear window like that, because you're going to be in there contorted. You'll look like one of them fellers that should be working at the county fair. You know what I mean? But what you'll do is you'll try to get that.
Well, Larry, I'm a midget, and I take offense to that.
Oh, okay. Well, didn't know that and didn't mean to offend you, but okay.
Well, I'm used to it.
But what you'll do is you're going to get a hold of the corner of that, loosen it up enough to get a hold of a corner, and pull it, just nice and slow, and try to get that layer, the tint layer, off. Then you're going to have the glue left behind. And now what I typically do is I will get something like a good towel, and what I'll do is I'll use denatured alcohol. That stuff is the most amazing thing I've ever used in my life. Get you the denatured alcohol, and what you want to do is you want to try to get that glue, just work a certain area, maybe 12 by 12 inches. Get it just as sopping wet with that denatured alcohol as you can with that towel. Then take that plastic razor blade and just start scraping it. It'll loosen it up, and like I said, it'll take a while to get it off and loosen all that glue up, but it'll get it to the point where that's how you're going to make progress getting it off of there. And if you use the plastic razor blade, you should be able to get it out of there without messing up the rear window defroster. So I guess worst case scenario, you get a regular razor blade and just scrape the window, but like I said, you'll probably wind up sacrificing the rear window defroster circuit back there if you do use a regular razor blade. But using those plastic razor blades, they're great for stuff like that, or if you're trying to remove decals off of off the side of a fleet vehicle or something like that. They work real good. You might even want to try, if you need to, you might even want to try a heat gun, but I don't know if it would. I think a heat gun with that tint might even make matters worse, Dave. And if you do, make sure you take care, because, that denatured alcohol also doubles as a fuel, so it is flammable. We wish you luck, and let us know how it works out.
Welcome back to the Magic Mechanic Show right here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. WDBO, like the last four letters of our phone number, 844-580-WDBO. If you're more of a binary code kind of person, I guess it's not going to work for you because we have more than ones and zeros. But 844-580-9326 is the number to call today. If you want to talk to Larry Perry, any questions you may have going on with your car or truck, maybe your steering wheel's shaking and you don't know why, or maybe your tire pressure, it's saying it's full, but it's still kind of wobbly. Who knows what's going on? I'll tell you who Larry does. Call right now, 844-580-9326. Where do you want to go right now, Larry?
Let's see. Hey, I'm going to make an announcement here. Hey,
all right.
We are looking for a automotive technician. We've got a gentleman that is moving. That's been with us for a long time, and it's kind of heartbreaking. But, hey, things like that happen in life and in business. So if anybody knows of a really good automotive tech that's seasoned, been in the business for a long time, and would like the opportunity to make an incredible living, we do pay the best for the best. There is no question about that. It takes a certain breed to be a magic mechanic tech. They have to have been around the block a few times and know what they're doing. But we got a great group of guys down there that everybody works together, and we solve some of the most difficult automotive problems on this planet. So if there's a good tech out there that's listening and they're like to make an incredible living, we stay busy, and we could keep them busy, and I think they'd make an extremely good living just like the rest of them down there do. So if you're interested or you know somebody, have them get in touch with us at Magic Mechanic and tell them you heard Larry mention it here on the Magic Mechanic Radio Show. Let's head. Who's been holding the longest? Looks like Robert, right?
That's right. Looks like line 2, Robert.
All right,
Robert
let's go
calling
to
from
Robert.
Ocala. Go ahead, Robert.
Oh, yeah. Well, while I'm waiting for a tow truck for my work truck,
no.
I thought I'd call in. Question for my personal car.
All right.
Yeah, I think I got an engine knock in my work truck here.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but I was looking. My car's been running a little sluggish. A 2013 Dodge Avenger with the 3.6, and kind of happened after I fueled up at a convenience store right before the hurricane. Where I couldn't. All the regular gas stations were out of fuel. But I used the premium.
Okay.
I used the premium, but things a little sluggish since then. And I have 2 manuals, my owner's manual and a what do you call it? A Haynes manual I picked up at the auto parts store.
Shop manual. Okay.
And neither one of them has any information about a fuel filter. So I don't even know if my car has a fuel filter, but I'm assuming it does.
It does. It does. Robert, today's vehicles. Well, let's go back a little ways. When we first started fuel injecting vehicles, we had a supply line coming from a fuel pump, usually located inside the gas tank. The fuel pump would kick on, and it would supply us fuel pressure through a fuel filter to the injector rail, where the injectors would, click on and off, and then it would disperse fuel into the engine. And then coming out of that injector rail, it would go into what is called a fuel pressure regulator. And that regulator, years ago, was vacuum operated, and depending on the engine vacuum, would determine how much or how little fuel pressure you had during engine effort, and it was all managed by vacuum. Now, anything in excess of what was not needed at that fuel rail for your fuel injectors actually went on straight back to the gas tank and returned into the tank. So it was a system that actually looped, throughout the vehicle, and that was how the fuel system was. And they had a replaceable fuel filter usually mounted underneath the vehicle. Well, in the mid-90s, Dodge, I believe, was the first ones to do this. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was 1994. What they done was they said, well, we don't need this return fuel line. We could actually go and have the return and everything done right in the gas tank. So what they did was they developed this thing that almost looks like an oil filler cap, and it plugs right into the top of the fuel tank, which is usually made out of plastic these days. And you've got your fuel pump in the tank, and then you've got usually like a nylon type of line coming off of the fuel pump going up to this oil filter cap looking thing. And what it does is that nylon line connects to it. And now this oil filter cap looking thing is what I refer to it as. It has a filter in it, but it also has a spring pressure valve in it. So let's say, for an example, your vehicle requires 35 or 40 pounds of fuel pressure. Well, anything in excess of that is actually returned right straight back into the gas tank. So your fuel pressure regulator and the filter is actually integrated into this device that just plugs into the top of your fuel tank. And, and the regulated pressure, just one single line, is what actually feeds your fuel rail for your injectors now. So the car manufacturers nowadays, all of them has pretty much went to that same system. So what I'm trying to get to is, in order to replace that filter element regulator assembly, you must drop the fuel tank. So what's happened is people don't want to go to all that trouble, even though these things should be replaced periodically, because if it gets plugged up, you might get your proper fuel pressure to the injector rail, but what's going to happen is you won't be able to get the volume of fuel that it's going to take to make the vehicle run correctly. So what happens is, right now, you take a 10-year-old vehicle, almost every vehicle out here that's 10 years old is probably running around with a fuel filter that is probably 60 to 70% plugged up. But, you know, they're still getting enough fuel to make the engines run and drive. So whenever you have these types of problems, because there's really no maintenance recommendation for fuel filter replacements, because of the amount of labor and the expense that goes along with it. Those filter regulator assemblies are probably somewhere in the neighborhood of anywhere from $150 to $250. Plus, you're going to add about 3 hours labor time to drop the fuel tank out. And you usually have to empty the tank, and then drop the tank out, and then take the fuel pump module apart to replace these things. So by the time you're done, you're talking about a $500 fuel filter replacement. So most people don't worry about it, you know, and since it's not a recommended maintenance item, you know, all we do is just tell people they need one if it's plugged up and it fails a fuel volume test. You know, that's when we tell them, and they're like, well, why don't they have them replaced every 60,000 miles? Because people don't want to wind up spending $500 to replace a fuel filter if it's not giving them any problems. Used to, when it was an easy part to replace, you know, we would try to replace them, you know, years ago about every 30,000 miles just to be on the safe side. Now, most fuel filters stay on a vehicle indefinitely, or until they cause so much restriction that they cause a problem. It either cause the fuel pump to fail, or either it causes a drivability problem. In your case, if you suspect that there's a fuel filter issue, what I'd probably tell you to do is put a fuel pressure gauge on the fuel rail and take the engine and have somebody just put their foot to the floor. And, you know, just for a brief couple minutes there, you know, not anything long, just to give it a real good whomp, you know, let it go wide open throttle and look at that fuel pressure gauge. And if it drops from, say, like 40 down to, well, 20 or 15 pounds, that means that filter in the tank is actually plugged up. And that's pretty much how you would do a volume test, you know, to find out if you had a starvation issue that was actually causing your problem. And if you drop fuel pressure, you know, tremendously during that wide open throttle test, that right there is pretty much sure sign that that filter is plugged up. Well, we got that one took care of. I wish you the best with the truck that you're in. You know, lower end knocks are not a good thing, Robert. Is this a fleet vehicle?
Yeah, company vehicle, yeah.
Yeah, they're going to hate a diesel?
Yeah, 2017 International. I'm in, where am I? I'm around Louisville, Kentucky, and my tow truck's coming up from Knoxville, Tennessee, so I'm going to be here a bit.
Oh, boy.
He's bringing me another truck and taking this one back to the shop.
Oh, geez. Well, Robert, thank you for listening to us that far out of town, and I hope I answered some questions for you. And, buddy, we wish you the best of luck. Make the best out of your weekend.
Thank you so much, Robert. Let's. You want to take Bill here, or you want to save some time for a juicy seg after this break, Larry?
I go ahead and do the break. Bill, you hang on. We're going to get right to you here in just a couple minutes.
Tom, everybody else on hold, thank you so much. We're going to take a quick break. My name's Josh McCarthy, answering the phones for you. Sitting here with Arushi. She's learning the ones and twos next to me. This is the Magic Mechanic Show, where you can get all your questions answered live by the Magic Mechanic himself, Larry Perry. Maybe your car is making this smell, you don't know what it is, or maybe, I don't know, you can't turn left as good as you used to. This is the time for you to call Larry Perry and get that fantastic advice for the low, low price of free. 844-580-9326, 844-580-WDBO. We're about 45 minutes away from our open mic section. Download the free WDBO app, pick the big open mic button there, and send us your best 20 seconds of audio. I get your question answered by Larry Perry. What do you say we go head over to Bill right now, Larry?
Well, I'll tell you something that'd be kind of fun for the open mic.
Tell me.
And it's actually derived from a email I just got here. And the question is from Scott, and it's really kind of funny how the question came up. He's in the middle of a vehicle restoration, and he's out of state. As a matter of fact, he's in California. And he's got some crazy emissions questions that I don't know if it applies to a 1975 Camaro or not. And the reason for it being is he's replacing a fuel tank, and he's afraid that he would be in an issue to where he might be violating some unknown emissions law. Now, I think the car is exempt, because of the age of it. But he's afraid that if he uses a gas tank that has no unleaded fuel only apparatus in the tank's neck, to where it would only accept unleaded fuel only, if it would violate some emissions thing if he had to take the vehicle in for inspection. So this is a real good one for the open mic, and hopefully he's still listening and will be tuned into it. But if you know what year that cars were mandated to be produced with unleaded fuel only to meet the new federal emissions requirements, leave us an open mic and tell us what year that those new emissions laws came into effect. And that'll probably help him out as far as knowing which gas tank to actually put back into his Camaro. All right? That ought to be some fun. And let's head over to Davenport and talk to Bill. He's got a 96 Dodge Ram. And you know what? I think Bill in Davenport's got a fuel question as well. Bill, tell us what you got.
Yeah, I'd like to know if I can put ethanol gas in my vehicle without damaging the fuel pump.
Okay. And what vehicle
the fuel
is
pump's
it?
Inside the tank.
Okay. What year?
It's a 96.
Okay. And what kind of vehicle were we dealing with here?
It's a Ram 1500 with a 318 in it.
Okay, with a 5.2 motor. Bill, let me tell you how this one is, and I'm going to have to say that I don't think you'll have any issues using, unless you let it set for a long period of time, and that applies to any vehicle. But see, on that fuel pump module that's in that tank, they started, and it was like one of our previous callers. Dodge started in 1994 making that single line fuel system from the fuel tank, fuel pump module to the fuel injection system. Now, on this one, what's really kind of ironic about it, it's almost like they had built this thing to accept, a 10% ethanol fuel. And the reason for it being is because you've got the mechanical fuel pump that's actually in the fuel pump module itself. And then instead of having like a rubber hose to go from the fuel pump itself up to the top of the fuel pump regulator filter assembly, they use a nylon line to transfer the fuel through instead of rubber. Now, if it was made out of a rubber, the ethanol would actually start deposing. It would actually start eating away at the rubber hose that goes up there to that filter regulator assembly. But they went ahead and they used that nylon, which the ethanol really doesn't have any effect on that nylon plastic that they're using. And everything from the tank all the way up to the injector rail itself is a nylon line that actually supplies the fuel all the way to the front of the vehicle and to the injectors. So, realistically, there's not anything that they would have really done on a newer vehicle that yours didn't already come equipped with in order to make it ethanol compliant. The only thing that I couldn't tell you is if and I don't think it's an issue because of the way that they seal, is the injector seals itself. Even if they weren't ethanol compliant seals, the way that they're compressed in there, I don't think that it would really have any effect on them or would cause them to leak long term because they're actually compressed into where they actually seal. So I don't think that would be an issue. If it was me, I would run it and I wouldn't give it a second thought just because of the way that system was built. I don't think you should really have to worry about it. Just keep in mind, though, that if you do let any vehicle, that even with 10% ethanol set for any period of time, say over 3 months, you probably want to add some type of a fuel stabilizer like Stabil or one of the stabilizers that Amsoil manufactures, or any of your over-the-counter ones, just to help stabilize the fuel to last over a 3-month period if the vehicle sets with the fuel in it that long. Thanks for your call, Bill.
Welcome back to the Magic Mechanic Show, right here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. My name is Josh McCarthy, the glorified middleman between the questions you got going on with your car and the man who knows the answers of the questions you've got going on with your car. 844-580-9326, 844-580-WDBO. Or if you like what you heard so far by Larry and you want to schedule an appointment, call right to his shop. That number is 407-629-2661, 407-629, I'm going to get that right one, 407-629-2661. And earlier today, Larry, you said you were just coming off a 10-mile bike ride. Are you able to catch your breath yet?
Oh, just about. Yeah, I'd missed last weekend, and as long as I get out there and ride every week, it's a
game changer.
It's just, it does a lot for you. And plus, when you're out here and you're doing the mountain bike thing out here in the on these bike trails here in Seminole County, which are just incredible. Econ River's giving us a little bit of a fit right now, but a lot of the trails are rideable again, which thank goodness for that. But yeah, it's really nice to get out there and get out in the nature part of it and get your exercise and fight through a little sugar sand here and there. But yeah, very, very good exercise. A lot of fun. Kind of get you back to a little peace with nature type of thing, Hey, folks.
Absolutely. Oh, go ahead.
Hey, folks, welcome to the second hour of the Magic Mechanic Radio Show. It's a show where you call in, you ask your automotive questions, and we've been doing this now for over 31 years. Can you imagine? It's actually the longest consecutively aired automotive show of any kind, and that's... so we've been around beating our head against hoods and being on the air for a long time, and really enjoyed it. I don't know what I'd probably have to ride my bike twice as much if I didn't do the show. Knowing I've got to do the show, I know when I have to quit, right, and come back home. Hey, folks, if you got an automotive question, give us a ring. You can't beat the price. It's absolutely free. That number is 844-580-9326. Also, we take your automotive questions and the comments you hear, and we place them on our new YouTube channel, so other folks can maybe find the same help that you needed. Plus, you can play it back anytime you want and listen to it. That number, again, is 844-580-9326. And if you'd like, you can also call the shop number and speak to JD, or leave a message and we'll call you back at 407-629-2661. And we do want to mention our, if we do have the open mic feature, so you can go to your WDBO app, click on it, and leave a car question, or what year was it that car manufacturers had to start building vehicles for unleaded fuel only? You can leave that message on the open mic as well. It'd be kind of interesting. We got somebody patiently waiting in California for the answer. How's that? Folks, our sponsors are very important to the show. We all pitch in to bring it to you every week. So if you enjoy it, please patronize our sponsors and tell them you heard about them here on the Magic Mechanic Radio Show. Orlando Auto Upholstery. Anything interior, convertible tops, carpet, seats, door panels, and they just don't replace everything. If you just need a seat repaired or a headliner, those types of things, they're awful busy. They're a very busy place, but I tell you, this day and time, when it comes to artisan trades like vehicle upholstery and that sort of thing, these guys are invaluable. There's just not very many of them left. So when it comes to this type of thing, and if you need anything like that done on a vehicle, maybe you're wanting to keep it, get the seats upholstered, whatever, give them a ring, 407-898-2351. Easy to remember, OrlandoAutoUpholstery.com. And get in touch with Vic or Donnie, and they'll tell you what you need to do as far as getting the car in and letting them take care of it and getting it spiffed back up for you. Amsoil synthetic lubricants for your car, truck, van, SUV, boat, motorcycle, lawn equipment. Folks, Amsoil is different than regular oil. It works completely different than the stuff you're going to buy on a parts store shelf. It runs to heat and friction and stays with anything that it comes in contact with until the engine cools down. It literally works backwards of the stuff that you're trying to lubricate your engine with. When you use Amsoil, you basically friction-free the engine because of the oil staying with it. See, conventional oils, these semi-synthetics and these want-to-be synthetic oils, the only reason they even lubricate anything in a motor is because they're physically being pumped by an oil pump. And an Amsoil engine, even if the oil pump didn't pump, the oil would try to go to the heat and friction. That's just the way the oil is made. It's made out of what they call polyalpha olefin. These are base stocks that are actually derived from irradiated plastics. And that's what gives the oils the unique ability to run and seek out heat and friction as opposed to getting hot and thin and running away from it. It works completely different. If you want to keep an engine around forever, you want to keep a car a long time, well, you got to use Amsoil. If not, the other oils that you're trying to use, the only thing they're good for is getting an engine from one oil change to the next without turning into pure sludge. As far as protecting a motor, they can put all the labels they want to on a bottle. It's not going to do you any good. The engine's still going to accelerate wear. All the oil seals, including valve guide seals, rear seal, front seal, they get hard as a rock and they start leaking. So when it comes to that sort of thing, you got to look, Amsoil costs more, but you know what? We use it a lot longer. So it really, it justifies the extra cost for it. Plus, you're not going to buy motors and transmissions. And see, that benefits me. Yeah, I'd rather you keep a vehicle based on the fact you don't have to replace engines and transmissions. See, we got it figured out like this. You'll be staying out of car payments, and you're not buying engines and transmissions, but look at all the other stuff that's eventually going to wear out and break. Look at all the power steering apparatuses. You got power windows. You got tires, brakes, alignments. You got all this other stuff, and it causes a person to want to keep that vehicle for a long period of time. We may not be selling you the great big stuff, but, we're always going to have the little stuff to take care of. You stay out of car payments, and, hey, we keep a job. So, Amsoil is beneficial for any automobile. Any automobile. Even electric vehicles use transmission fluid in most of their transfer power units. So, Amsoil is literally a fountain of youth for an automobile. And we learned that many, many, many years ago. Amsoil even warranties your engine against lubrication failure as long as you put their oil in sound equipment. So, warranty-wise, that's like getting a free extended warranty on your motor when you use Amsoil. There's too many benefits to, ignore this. It is just a fantastic product. If you want to find out more, you can always go to Amsoil.com, or you can Google Amsoil and find stories just like I'm telling you over and over and over. It's a fantastic product and worth every penny, especially if you want to keep a vehicle a long time. If you're going to get rid of it 3 years from now, or it's a lease vehicle, put whatever. It doesn't matter. But if it's your own personal one that you do want to keep, a performance car, or maybe you've got an antique or a classic, they make oils for those as well. They make their Z-Rod oil that's got their zinc in it, which is extremely important on older vehicles. But Amsoil makes some incredible products, and they've been around a long time. As a matter of fact, they were the very first to develop synthetic oil for an internal combustion engine, and that was 1972. I wish I'd have known about them then. I didn't learn about Amsoil until 1992. I feel like an idiot, but hey, we had to start somewhere, right? And another one of our sponsors here is Jasper Engines and Transmissions. If you need a motor or transmission, you want to repower a vehicle, and you once again want to keep it on the road a long time, and you've got so many shops out there and people that sell this stuff. You don't know who to trust. Well, you can trust Jasper. The reason for it being is any engine or transmission that is installed, or Magic Mechanic installs it. The bottom line is it comes with a 100,000-mile parts and labor nationwide warranty. And I have never, ever seen Jasper turn their nose up at any warranty, and we've been using them specifically for engine and transmissions for, probably in the neighborhood of about 20 years now. And they have been a great partner for us, and they have made a lot of our customers get a lot more miles and service out of a present vehicle, whether it be a personal vehicle or a fleet vehicle. It's definitely worth the investment. If you're going to spend that kind of money, you better make sure that you got the best warranty available, and I do not know of any more than a 100,000-mile nationwide warranty. Most new vehicles don't come with a 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. Some do, but they're the ones replacing all the engines and transmissions under warranty right now. But in most cases, usually you get around a 36 or a 70,000-mile engine and transmission warranty. Jasper's going to warranty theirs for $100K, so you can't beat the deal. It's a good investment if you do repower. And last but not least is Magic Mechanic at my place. We're located in Orlando, Florida. Engines, transmissions, brakes, suspension, steering, electrical repairs, and of course, Amsoil synthetic lubricants. You can visit us at magicmechanic.com or email me directly, larry@magicmechanic.com. All right, Josh, what do we do here? Do we go to the three big things real quick and then come right back to the calls?
You got it, Larry. Let's take a quick break. We'll get some news out of Leo. We'll head to the three big things, and then out of that break, we'll get a hold of Tom, Bob, and Bill, and anybody else who calls right now from Deltona. Go ahead, Tom.
Hello, Larry. How are you?
We're doing great, Tom. How you doing?
I'm good. I got a question. My wife's got a 2009 Jeep 2.4. And we've been having problems with the intake manifold and the runner. And they say we have to only put Mopar parts on it. And they did a smoke test on it, and it's not leaking.
What is it? Just setting a code for the intake runner?
It's sending, yes.
Okay. Tom, those are available in the aftermarket. We have.
Yeah, we had them put on, and it's still. I mean, you start this thing up, and it goes up to 2,500 RPM immediately. Like that thing's open, and I mean, I know how it works. It's supposed to, when you go slower, you get less air, so fuel air mixture, and when you go higher, it opens more, so you get more fuel air mixture.
Yeah, well, what it does is it kind of curves the intake air. It creates more of a vortex is what it does. And, so you've had an aftermarket one put on there, and you're still having high idle problems when you start it up?
Correct.
Well, Tom, I don't want to, I don't think that's what's causing that problem. Even if those intake runners,
I agree with you. I don't either.
Yeah, even if those intake runners were not operable at all, they really wouldn't make any difference at low RPM. the intake runners, what they do is they're pretty much open at an idle, and when you start accelerating, see what they'll do is they'll close a little bit, and then what it does is it creates a vortex, so that incoming air is actually pulled in harder into the cylinders.
Got it.
Yeah, it's see, they're using these lower compression motors in those things so that you could run crappy gas in them. And what happens is, if your compression's a little lower, the vacuum on the suction stroke when the piston comes down is only going to pull so hard. And depending on the length of the intake, they put those runners in there, those little flaps, in order to create a vortex, so it pulls a little bit harder, which is really kind of cool considering if they'd used a higher compression piston, they wouldn't have to use those to start with. But what are we going to do? If you've got a higher...
So in your opinion, where should I go next?
Well, I would think there's more of a idle air control, something on those lines. The idle speed control motor may have an issue or be sticking, or don't put it past something being a computer related problem. But
that's what I told my wife.
I think that it's a control problem of some sort, and an intake's not going to fix that. I don't mean to throw your mechanic under the bus here, but that's unless.
No, listen, I just retired. I was an aircraft mechanic for 41 years, so I understand how this stuff works.
You're right there with me. I mean, those adjustable flaps in there is not going to cause you to have an uncontrollable high idle during startup. It's not going to do it.
The new ones are all plastic.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. They're made out of plastic. So that's not going to fix the problem. All right, we got that handled, and we don't have to worry about that issue. But now, going to have to figure out what's actually wrong with it. Are they code stored in the computer system now?
Yeah, and they won't go away.
Do you know what they are?
And I have my own reader, and it calls out for the runner valve.
Yeah. Have you cleared it?
And I don't think it's getting the proper signal from a computer or wherever it gets it from.
Well, what a person's going to need to do, Tom, is actually go and look at the data stream on this with a real live, honest-to-goodness, high-tech scan tool. So that way you can take into account what the coolant temp sensor is, find out what the idle speed control motor's doing, and clear that code for that intake runner and see if it comes back. That would be my route to start with anyway. But I think we're working on the wrong end of the engine here. You let us know if we can help you, buddy, and we appreciate your call, and I hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you so much, Tom. That opens up a line for you to talk to Larry today, 844-580-9326, 844-580-WDBO. We're going to take a quick break for news. We'll be right back with more of The Magic Mechanic on WDBO. Welcome back to the Magic Mechanic Show right here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. My name's Josh McCarthy, sitting by the microphone. Got a Rushi to my right answering your phones. 844-580-9326, 844-580-WDBO. This is your time to get your questions answered by your local expert, Larry Perry, the Magic Mechanic. He is here to answer your calls about your truck or your car or your van, or every once in a while a generator or a lawnmower question gets in here. I don't know who. We got to work on these people screening the calls. How about that, Larry?
Yeah, going to have to put you to work here. All right. I heard we didn't have any open mics, but I wanted to go ahead. I do have a email here. It's from Jeff here in Orlando. And to answer the question that I had asked earlier about what year did the EPA make manufacturers start converting vehicles to use unleaded fuel only, was 1975. And it's really kind of crazy because I remembered I was working at my dad's gas station back in the early 70s, and it was really kind of weird. All of a sudden they came in there and they started running, dug a big hole in the ground, and they stuck a tank in the ground, and then they put this one pump in all off by itself, off the beaten path, and said unleaded. And everybody kind of looked at each other and said, "Why, there ain't be nobody ever buy that. Who's gonna put that in their car?" Who would have ever thought? But it was really funny because those early vehicles in the mid 70s that were unleaded fuel only, not only did they have the apparatus in the fuel neck to where you couldn't introduce regular leaded fuel into the vehicle, but they also came with what was called a catalytic converter, which we still use to this day, and one of the most highly stolen pieces of any car. And the vehicles also come with an attempt of tamper-proofing carburetors, and they came with things like air pumps to help lower emissions as well. And this was way before any computers were actually added to those vehicles during that period. So, an interesting time for the automobile industry. I remember in 1975, there would be people pull into my dad's gas station just absolutely hell-bent on not going to use unleaded fuel, no matter what the cost was. They would sit up there and they'd take the tire tool that they use to, take your lug nuts off during a flat, and they would actually go and take those tire tools and beat those apparatuses out of the filler necks of the fuel tanks so that they could use the regular gasoline. It was unbelievable. What an interesting time for the automobile market. It kind of puts me in the mind of, okay, the government mandated unleaded fuel, and the good old boy network went out there with tire tools and beat the filler necks out of their cars. Now what are they going to do with the electric things coming up? It'll be interesting, so to say the least. So, all right, we're going to start off here with John, and I don't know where he's from. Got a Honda. Tell us what's going on with this thing, John.
Okay, so I'm in Orlando in Altamont Springs,
All right.
and I have a 2013 Honda Pilot, which we love, 8-seater, and it says it's a VTEC, iVTEC CRM, so it's got something going on with the transmission where it doesn't really shift very smoothly, especially from standing and starting or stop and go traffic. And I don't know if it's a problem or that's something that's typical with that transmission.
Well, it's a 5-speed automatic. I mean, there's not really, you shouldn't have all these issues with it. I will tell you this, John, what you need to do is have a technician drive the vehicle and kind of let you know what's going on with it. A lot of times you'll get a front-wheel drive vehicle like that, and what will happen is you'll get some worn engine mounts or something along those lines, and you'll have all kinds of knocking and banging and all kinds of crazy stuff coming on, going on with it. But does it feel like the transmission's slipping?
No, not like that, because in the other gears, it is really smooth, picks up speed really well, drives excellent on the highway. It has a light that goes on when it goes into eco mode. So I know that when I read the manual, it says something about it might shut off a cylinder or two to save gas, and it goes into eco mode.
Uh-huh.
And when that thing happens, that's when I feel like a little bit of a slipping or banging or not so smooth switching.
Yeah. You know what, John? It's probably we'd want to check the mounts on it, but you may have more of a tune-up issue going on, and let me tell you why. See, when you get some worn ignition components like on that 3.5 V6 motor, you'll get spark plugs that are worn, coils are worn. And when it goes into an eco mode, you're actually loading the motor more, and here it is deactivating cylinders. And if the tune-up stuff on the car isn't 100%, it can start running too lean and cause you a little bit of a misfire and bumping and carrying on, just not smooth anymore. So it may not be anything. Let's just hope it's not transmission. But checking the engine mounts and making sure that the tune-up condition is in good shape is going to be the first things that need to take a look at on it. Also, the air induction tube that runs from the air cleaner box to the throttle body, make sure that thing does not have any cracks in it. I'm telling you, we find that all the time. Because see, what will happen is if there's any cracks in that tube from a bad mount or just from deterioration, and you accelerate, see, your engine will tilt back a little bit, and when that happens, you'll be in a situation to where it'll pull upstream air from the actual mass airflow sensor. So the computer system can't make its proper adjustments for injector pulse, and it will give you this horrible transition, especially at a certain throttle angle, and certain load.
Right.
So make sure that air tube, because if it's got a crack in it, all bets are off until that's fixed. And I'm telling you, so many people don't know to look for that, and they wouldn't think about that. But it happens, you get a vehicle 10 years old, the rubber hose has been baked in there, because of the engine heat, and you get a crack in that, and you accelerate because the engine just moves a little bit, and it pulls that crack apart, and then that daggone thing will start running horrible. But tune-up stuff, that intake hose, and got to make sure those mounts are in good shape, too. But, John, if we can help you, you holler at us, all right?
I appreciate it. Thank you for your help.
Uh-huh.
Have a good day.
Thank you so much, John. We got enough time to take another caller right now, but that opens up a line for you today, 844-580-9326, to talk to Larry Perry, the Magic Mechanic. Let's go ahead and talk to Ron. Ron's calling from Winter Haven. Ron's got a question. He's got, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and let him ask Ron, or let him ask Larry, because I think he's over my head. Go ahead, Ron.
Hey, Larry, how you doing?
Good.
I have more of a curiosity question. I have a car from factory tuned for 93 octane. Now, I'm thinking, what is better, 90 non-ethanol or 93 ethanol?
Well, it would depend on the application, I guess. What kind of vehicle is it, Ron?
It's a 2016 Mazda Miata. It's stock.
Okay. Well, now the thing is, for racing and horsepower and performance, you can get more horsepower and performance out of ethanol than you can gasoline, and there's a whole bunch. Go ahead.
Yeah. I noticed that I get 42 miles to the gallon with non-ethanol. I get about 39 with ethanol.
Okay. Well, in a regular application, yes, that's expected. That is absolutely expected. You should get less fuel economy with the factory tune, and computer system. And you will get better fuel economy without any ethanol, which, to me, I don't know why we ever got into this ethanol thing to start with. It makes absolutely no sense. It costs a fortune to make it. There's no benefit to it. You get worse fuel economy, and it just goes on and on and on. I don't know, that's our government at work again, But if for racing purposes, you can use ethanol for racing purposes, but the thing is, you got to change the computer program in a vehicle in order to be able to do that. And what it does is you can change it to where the injectors open up a lot more, because you got to have more ethanol to do the same thing that you would with gasoline, just straight gasoline. But the beauty of the alcohol or ethanol is if you've got a car tuned for it for racing purposes, you can get a cooler cylinder, and it allows you to get more total timing. And just by switching a vehicle for performance-wise, now I'm not telling anybody to do this, you can probably get on a race engine, you probably get another 100 horsepower out of an engine or more by using ethanol as opposed to gasoline for race purposes. But you're going to use about twice as much alcohol or ethanol to do that. So cost-effectively, it would only benefit you if you were racing the vehicle, and you would have to have a special tune just for that. All right. I hope that helps you a little bit. An interesting question. And we thank
you so much, Ron. We're going to take a quick
107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk.
All I want to do is want to go to Jeff?
Let's go to Jeff.
Welcome back to our final segment of this edition of the Magic Mechanic Show right here on WDBO. But Like Larry said at the top of the show, if you got your question on the air, there's a fantastic thing called YouTube where there's a massive inventory of previous questions over previous episodes. So if you know you got a 1996 Ford Mustang and you want to see a lot of the questions that Larry has answered about a 1996 Ford Mustang, that was my first car, by the way, that's why it came to my head, then go over to the Magic Mechanic YouTube channel. But if you want to talk to Larry right now, the number is 844-580-9326. Got about 5 minutes left, 844-580-WDBO. Let's go ahead and pop over to Orlando, where Jeff's calling about his 2002 Saturn. Go ahead, Jeff.
Hey, Larry, I got a 2002 Saturn. You go to the gas station, get gas, you turn the key off, get back in it, turn the ignition, and nothing happens. It's not a dead battery. I changed the BCM module, and that had it running fine for about 2 months, and then it started doing the same thing over again.
Okay. Well, there could be now when you say you put the key in the ignition and you turn it, you don't have no click, no cranking, no nothing.
No noise, complete silence. The dash lights are on. You can turn the radio on. You can blow the horn, turn on headlights, but it's just a silent. Everything on the dash will black out as you do that. But then as soon as you release the key, all the lights are on. And first time it happened, it took 10 minutes and cranked back up. And then it got where you knew not to go mess with it for a couple hours. But it was religiously over and over. It would always crank up again.
Okay. Well, Jeff, the way that this is, do you have a separate starter relay on this car? I don't have the wiring schematic in front of me. I'm sure that if you've replaced a BCM, you've probably visited this. Is there a separate starter relay for it?
Not that I know of.
Well, what's going to need to be
and
done?
With the base model, there's...
Okay. Well, it still could use a starter relay. Some vehicles use a starter relay. That's something that you're going to probably need to find out. I wish I had the wiring schematic in front of me, but I didn't have time to pull it up because I just now learned what was going on with it. But a person's going to need to look at the wiring schematic, see if there is a starter relay for this. But the bottom line is, Jeff, what's going to need to be done, you're going to need to take a test light. And, if it does have a starter relay, going to have to go to the terminal that's actually, make sure there's power at the, person's going to need to remove the relay. And then they're going to need to take the test light into the terminals and make sure there is a 12-volt power there, which I'm sure they probably will be. Then a person is going to need to take and probe each one of the wires while somebody is turning the key to find out if one is getting power and illuminating the test light whenever you crank it over. Yeah. And that's going to need to be done. And then if there's no issue there and there's power at a relay, or if it doesn't have a relay, then a person is going to need to go to the wire on the solenoid of the starter. When you turn the key, you're going to have power from the ignition switch, either to a relay or either it's going to be going directly to the starter solenoid itself. But you're going to need to find out if it's going to light up the test light down at the starter solenoid. If it is, it's a bad starter. If you don't get power there, then you're going to have to backtrack either to a relay and on back to the ignition switch. And then we have another issue to where on that vehicle, I don't know if it uses a passkey system for an anti-theft. A lot of the vehicles have to have what it is. You put the key in, and then the tumbler is actually read from an anti-theft system in order to verify that it's got the correct key, somebody's not stealing the car, and allow voltage to actually go to the starter itself. So there's a few things.
What it's aiming for.
Okay.
And also, when you're driving it, sometimes the gas gauge and the tachometer would just drop to zero sporadically.
And then just come back. You know what? I'm going to tell you right now, Jeff, that has all the makings of a possible bad ignition switch. If you get one that's losing, power like that to the dash or whatever, you're losing accessory power. And see, that's the same as it being on your run circuit of that ignition switch. And, something could be coming apart inside the ignition switch itself. And it's these types of problems are very hard to diagnose. And these are the types of things that happen on a vehicle that's 20 years old. It's just those contacts inside that ignition switch are wore out. And whenever you go to crank it, or you're driving down the road, you hit a little bit of a bump or something, all of a sudden your gauges go blank or quit working, and those are the signs of a bad ignition switch. So, I would still run the circuit tests with a 12-volt test light, which it isn't hard to do, but you need to look in your fuse and relay center underneath the hood and see if any of those relays are marked start or starter. And if they are, you need to do your circuit test there first to start with. And then that's going to verify if you're getting power from the ignition switch there or not. Just keep probing all those terminals until you find out whether you got power there when somebody's cranking it. You're going to have one power constant. But you get it checked out. Send me an email, larry@magicmechanic.com, and we'll walk through this thing and get it handled for you. Folks, thanks for tuning in. You listeners, customers, show sponsors are the reason we do the show, and I have a job. You can tune in every Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time here in Central Florida on 107.3 FM, HD Radio 96.5 2, and AM 580. Worldwide at WDBO.com. And click Listen Live, or just tell your smart speaker to play WDBO radio every Saturday at 3 p.m. And if you need help with your vehicle, you can always call Magic Mechanic at 407-629-2661. Visit our website, magicmechanic.com. Or you can also email car questions directly to me, Larry, at magicmechanic.com. Until next week, be safe in and out of your car, and we'll see you back here next Saturday at 3 p.m.